Your church website is one of your biggest assets, and I would argue that it's also one of the most underused part of your digital marketing and communication strategy. So today we're going to look at 10 of the most common mistakes I see on church websites and how to go about fixing them. Some of them are tried and true standards. Others are opinions that I think will help your church connect with more people. Because what I know is every church is looking to grow. No matter the season, no matter the age of the church is built and made with the purpose to reach the entire community. And your church website can do that. So let's jump in. One of the biggest mistakes, I would say the biggest problem that I see with church websites is that they do not have a call to action, a CTA. A call to action is so important because new guests are going to come to your website and they're going to wonder, what am I supposed to do? Where am I supposed to go? How can I be a part of the church? Well, if you don't have a call to action, then you're never going to be able to answer that question for them. The number one way to fix that is by creating a plan your visit form. A plan your visit form is a short 4 or 5 question form that you put everywhere on your website to make sure that new guests know exactly where they're supposed to go and what they're supposed to do on your website. It's just collecting simple information like name, phone number, email address, and when they plan on attending. This plan your visit form also helps you turn digital visitors into in-person visitors, which is what we want because we want to connect with them and showcase the relationships that your church provides. So that's number one. Now, the number two problem that I see is churches treat their website like a back door. They treat it as an announcement board for people who are already involved at their church. It's like more of an internal site where they post spiritual resources and upcoming event registration links and all the things. And while a website is good for those types of things, they put this at the very front of their website. And so when a new person comes, they just see some of these resources that are meant for internal members rather than the information that a new guest is looking for. And so the only way you can fix that is by viewing your website as a front door rather than a back door. Treating your website like a front door is making the front page and all of the information that someone will see right when they land on your page with the audience of a new guest rather than an internal member. And so that's important, treating your website like a front door because that's where new guests are going to land. Third problem that we see is an unclear I'm new path. So what are you talking about? Well, an I'm new path is something where you map out the journey a guest would take whenever they land on your website. Say you want them to see the header, then you want to see the first section on the website, and then maybe taking them directly to an I'm new page. And so to fix this problem, you need a strategic new guest journey. One of the most helpful things that I've seen churches do is creating a page specifically dedicated to new guests, where they go through and they introduce the pastor, they introduce the church and answer all of their frequently asked questions. And so having a strategic new guest journey that maps them all the way from the first time they visit your website, all the way to when they show up in person is going to be extremely important as you're building your church's website. Another problem we see is an outdated homepage. Did you know that you only have about 5 seconds to capture the attention of someone who jumps on your website? 5 seconds. So if someone jumps on your website and they say, I don't think this has been updated since 2005, then it's going to be really hard for you to encourage them to come to your church. So to fix this problem, you're going to need a clean and clear header that is at the very top of your website so that when a new guest jumps on your website, they see something that looks like it was built in 2026. You know, there's a misconception out there that a nice website costs a lot of money and takes a lot of time. While it does require some investment of time and resources, because of today's technology, it is much more attainable than you would think. And so creating a clean and clear website header means making sure you have a great image or video up there. You have your church's name, you have your church's service times, and you have a really short and quick sentence about what sets your church apart from other things that people in the community may be looking at. So this is important as you're looking at building your website. Now, it's also another thing that I see churches just use stock images or images of not people on their website. And it's really hard for someone to relate with a picture of a table or a picture of an empty room. People are looking for somewhere to belong. And when people are looking for somewhere to belong, it's best to give them real photos of people like them. Church is full of people, and so why not highlight those people and the relationships that they have on your church's website? Take one Sunday and capture a ton of pictures across all areas of your church and all of the different environments. Put those on your website. Those are going to be really key in showcasing the people of your church and the amazing relationships that your church has. Another problem we see is that churches' websites are really missing clear information on kids ministry. Whenever I go onto a church page and I don't see any information about kids ministry, I would have to assume that they have a really small or maybe even ineffective kids ministry. And what we know is kids bring parents in a lot of ways to churches. Parents are making decisions based on what their kids want to do. And so one of the first questions they're going to have is, well, what does this church do for my kids? And if you're not able to clearly communicate that on your church's website, then you're missing a massive opportunity. So we would recommend a dedicated kids page, a page where you can clearly show what your kids ministry looks like, introduce the kids minister, and share like how they can get involved. Maybe even give them the opportunity to pre-register so it makes their Sunday morning experience even more clean and efficient so that they can have a great experience when they finally visit your church. But having a dedicated kids page is a must. I also see a ton of church websites that are not mobile friendly. You know, when we're designing websites or editing websites, a lot of times we're looking at that on a laptop or on a desktop, which is great. It's usually the best way to edit a website. I can't imagine editing a website on my phone. But if you only edit and design your website for your desktop view, then you're missing out on about 80% of your website visitors. See, most people visit websites from their phone, the personal websites. Now, if it's for their work, then they're probably going to visit it on their computer. But since it's on their personal time that they're probably looking up your church, then they're going to look at it on their phone. Which means if you don't design for your phone, then they're going to come to your website and see a really unclear website. So when you're designing your website, make sure that you design in a mobile-friendly view. Make sure everything looks clear on your mobile view. You might have to take some things away, add some new parts of the website, just so that you make sure that it looks good on your phone, because that's where your visitors are actually engaging with your website on. Another problem that we see with church websites is outdated graphics and design. See, we see a lot of churches use their website as an announcement board, which is maybe good for your internal members, but it's definitely not good for welcoming new guests onto your church property or encouraging guests to join. See, like I said earlier, a up-to-date and clean and clear website is not as far off as you think it is. See, there are some simple things that you can do that will help make sure that your website has a clean look and feel. There are inexpensive options out there that can really help your church website go to the next level. Because if your church website is out of date, then that might encourage people to assume that your church might be out of date, and we do not want them thinking about that. We also see a lot of churches using insider language whenever they're on their church website, using words like sanctification or discipleship or big church words that we in the church understand, but maybe new people wouldn't understand. And so we encourage churches, when they're looking at the wording on their website, to have a new guest focused. Use words that anyone in the community would understand, and they didn't have to really understand Christianity quite yet to be able to understand what you're trying to share. So that's an important lens to look through. Every word on your website, would a new guest understand what's being said? And finally, and this maybe is the biggest thing that we see, or one of the biggest things that we see, and one of the hardest to change, is that church websites in a lot of settings don't have a connection to the other digital channels. So what do I mean by that? They have churches will have a social media plan that's going. They'll have an email text plan that's going. They'll have a website that's going. They might even have the Google Grant or paid ads. But those channels don't talk to each other. They don't work off each other. They're not connected in a way that someone would say, oh yeah, those things go together. And that is a massive missed opportunity. See, when you're able to digitally optimize and connect your church website and all of your digital channels, then your church's communication plan will act more like a puzzle, more like a story than a bunch of disconnected silos. See, what if there was a way that your church could have a social media plan that drives people off social media onto your church website so that they can learn more? See, we know it's hard to have a lot of information on social media. So what if social media drives them to their website, to your website, so they can fill out a form, that plan your visit form we talked about earlier. They can insert their contact information that immediately follows up with an email and a text, and maybe even some personal communication from your church staff. See, that's how you can frame your website in the bigger picture of your church's communication and marketing strategy. See, that takes sometimes a little bit more effort and planning, but it's well worth it, because remember, we're building church websites so that we can reach the community with the amazing message of Jesus Christ. And so if it's something that you hear some of these things and you're like, man, I would love to do that. I would love to learn how to do those types of things. We would love to connect. At Connect Ministries, we serve churches through marketing and communication support. And so if you would like for us to just maybe be a secret shopper and check out your church website, we would love the opportunity to do that and provide a free evaluation of some of these things and maybe some other best practices that we train church leaders on. Check out the description below and fill out the form and request a time to meet with our team to maybe go through some of those best practices. We would love to serve you in that way so that you can become more effective at meeting new people in your community. Know that our team is pulling for you, we're praying for you, and we can't wait to hear more about the ways that your church is meeting new people in your community.